I chose a cute little mushroom picture to color this time. I get started, with a little help from my puppy. Using consistent pressure, I uniformly color the entire log in a dark yellow shade called sienna. Next, I grab a light brown color called cinnamon. I begin building layers of color that will be used to give the log shape and texture. I color the rings at the end of the log first. Next, I color the bark horizontally from end to end. This time, I add color to the entire log. This will make up the base layer of color. Next, I apply pastel green as a base color to all of the leaves. Emerald green is next. I do the base, tips, and edges of the leaves with it. The small leaves are almost entirely covered in this color. Deep chrome green is used to do the base, tips, and veins of the leaves. Follow my example for proper placement. I decide to add a bit more emerald green to the large leaf. Then, I decide to erase it and do the whole thing over again. I use this pink color to do the base color of the mushroom caps next. I go back over it to make sure it is covered evenly. I color the little mushroom caps next. I use poppy red to put the second layer of color on the small mushroom caps. I color the entire cap red. I use Arizona topaz, a muted yellow, to do the stems of the mushrooms, including the one that makes up our character's body. I make sure it is colored solidly and evenly. Next, I color the spots on the cap the same color. I do the bottom and left side of the small stem on the left, and under the cap and the left side of the one on the right, in light orange to add shading. Next, I color all of the moss green. Navy blue is used to add shading to the moss. Follow my example for placement, but it is mainly around the edge and where it sits against the log. This will mimic a shadow being cast on it by the log. I color the bottom of the large cap Arizona topaz. I add shading to the spots on the mushrooms by coloring around the perimeter of each one, with more color on the edge, less color towards the center of each circle, with cinnamon. Do this by using more pressure when coloring the edges, less and less pressure as you move inwards. Next, I move on to the underside of the cap. I leave the outer edge yellow and color the remainder in cinnamon. I color the left side of the small left mushroom next. That adds a shadow to make it look round. I do the same thing to the other one. Then I color the area right under the cap to look like a shadow. I then use brown to add darker shading to the spots on the cap by coloring a thin area right along their perimeter. The next step is adding a darker shadow close to the stem on the underside of the cap. Color about half the length of the area under the cap, starting in the center and moving outwards. Finally, I use chestnut to finish the bottom of the cap by coloring from the center to about 3 millimeters, 1/8 inch outwards from the stem. Roan red is then used to add shape and color to the caps. I start with the small ones. I color all but a small area near the top center. This represents the area that is hit by direct sunlight. I do a line on the left edge of the stems, as well as the area under the cap. I use chestnut to do a thin line on the bottom of the small caps. We will do the large cap later. I use brown to add another layer of color to the bark on the log. Use my example for placement. As you will see, I color it horizontally, from end to end, leaving a strip up the middle and slightly closer to the top, in the lighter color. Next, I make the line of brown on the bark uneven to make it look more like a realistic, uneven surface. I color the rings on the end of the log as well so they look slightly indented. Using chestnut, a dark brown, I add darker shading to the top and bottom edges of the log, giving it a round appearance. Now I use this pink to make our character's cheeks rosy. I decided they weren't rosy enough, so I made them red instead. I also gave the tip of his nose a hint of color by lightly coloring it as well. Now I move on to the large mushroom cap. Using a fair amount of pressure, I start at the edges of the cap, then put less and less pressure as I move toward the center. Don't color the entire cap, as we want to leave an area pink, where the sunlight would be directly shining on it. Use my example of proper color placement if you're unsure. I use roan red to add darker shading around the edge of the cap. Use my example of placement. I use more pressure to add more color at the edge, and less pressure as I move inward, adding less color toward the center. The entire area should be about 1/2 of a centimeter, or 1/5 of an inch wide. I add more pink to the middle of the cap to brighten it up a bit and blend it into the red better. You may want to watch first, then rewind and watch again, before coloring your pick, as there's some erasing and correcting coming up. To give the large stem shape, I now add darker coloring to look like shadows in specific areas, such as both sides, under the cap, around the edge of his legs, anywhere I think a shadow would be cast. I decided the light orange wasn't giving me as much pigmentation as I wanted, so I go over the same areas, in Sarasota orange, using less pressure at the edges, more pressure moving inward. I didn't like the width of the shading, so I erased it and started over, again. I add Sarasota orange in the previously mentioned areas, as well as on the tip of the nose and the cheeks, previously done poppy red. Now, I add brown in the areas on the large stem that I imagine would have the darkest shadow on them, such as under the mushroom cap and where it curves at the edges. If you're not sure where these areas would be, follow my example. Remember, more pressure at the edges, less pressure moving inward. I decide I need to rosy up his cheeks and the tip of his nose again. I put a light dusting of color on his tummy as well, all in poppy red. Chestnut is then used at the edge of the bottom of the mushroom cap, to give it a very pronounced shadow. I add a small amount to the bottom of the cap as well, right where it meets the stem. I brighten up the orange on the bottom of the cap next. Now I brighten up the yellow.